has literally been like 4 years since I've done a get ready with me, but I thought that this was the mood I was in. I've been wanting to film because filming, as I've said many times, is one of the things that makes me happiest in life and makes me feel productive. And ever since I came home, I've been dealing with a lot of anxiety. I don't deal well with traveling very well, which is why I don't travel a lot. I find that I often get into a huge funk and I get really overwhelmed, and my overwhelmed anxiety is less a physical manifestation and it's more like very internal. Like I just kind of like shut down and stare at things and watch all of Sweet Magnolias, which was not healthy for me or good, but I do have thoughts about divorced mothers now. I thought that it actually dealt with some of the things. Helen is the one that I liked the most. I don't think that that added anything to my life, but I was like, I need to write a paper. Maybe if I watch soothing things, it will help. It did not help. Anyway, so I'm going to chat and get ready at the same time. I'm going to put my hair up. The only thing I've done so far is straighten a tiny bit of my hair. Also, look at this. So I am debating between chopping a bunch of my hair off so that this back can grow back, because the issue is I love having the chopped hair and I have such heavy hair. Like it's shaved all the way up to here, and yet I have more hair than a lot of people have just generally. You can tell I have like no eyebrows. This is the thing that even when I tend to wear no makeup, I tend to do my eyebrows. One of the things I've also been considering while not writing my paper has been the idea this different eyebrows are making me laugh. Okay, is doing something that is related to my old content. So when I first started posting on the internet, it wasn't YouTube, it wasn't anything related to that. But the reason I started a YouTube channel was I was originally going to kind of start videoing about what I talked about in my blog. Since I was 16 years old, I talked a lot about mental health and about anorexia, and then I also talked about controversial issues and relationships, because me, who had never been in a relationship before, totally knew everything about relationships. Quickly stopped talking about relationships as soon as I got into one, and I was like, oh, this is a lot more messy than I thought it was. This is from Lush. I got it for Christmas. It is body lotion, which makes sense. I've been putting it because I have lots of issues with my foundation. I have, through most of my channel, used too dark foundation because the issue is I am very, very pale, but my skin itself seems to not be tinted pale, if that makes sense. I get too dark foundation and then I can't wear it outside because it just doesn't match my neck or anything. So like this is my too large self that I was way too dark for. But then this stuff, which is like probably the actual color of my skin, way pales me out because of the fact that it takes out my natural like highlighting things. So I never know, like look, a good chunk of my blog posts were always about anorexia. I struggled with it very deeply as a child, as a teenager. It is something that is still very relevant to my life despite gaining weight. It's probably one of the things that is most continually, like I struggle with anxiety, I struggle with depression, but I struggle with anorexia most. And this year has been interesting to still deal with recovery. One of the favorite posts I think I ever made was in 2017, where I was like, I'm a recovered anorexic, and the idea and the kind of misconceptions about what we do about recovering anorexia and the way that we treat people who have had anorexia, and like kind of the depiction in the media of the fact that so often people who have anorexia have like a very special episode and then it's over. And it's like, that has never been my thing. This is going on 11 years of dealing with anorexia. I miss meals all the time, not only because of the fact that I'm trying to starve myself, but sometimes because I forget, like my hunger things have not completely come back. Sometimes people are like, it's not great to post about things when you're a teenager, and some things I'm like, ah, Kira, why would you write that? And then some things I'm like, is really glad that I have this really good post kind of what my thoughts are, but it also perceives how I was wanting other people to perceive me. But then these like desperate kind of cries for help behind this like academic language, it's very, very interesting. And there was one particularly that I wrote for a class because every opportunity I had to write for class about anorexia or beauty standards, I did a lot of that. I took sociology and politics and English and history and writer's craft. Like I took literally every like place where I could write essays. After I had tried to get treated for it, but because I was not specifically low amount of weight, I wasn't actually given inpatient treatment. So I've never actually received very good treatment for my anorexia, which is startling because it is something, it has had really, really adverse things in my life, affects even my like eyesight. Like I wear contacts all of the time because I can't see this far in my face, which I didn't develop until after I started starving myself. And these things that I'm really, really passionate about, and yet, you know, I was never actually treated for it, which is absurd because it's still something 10 years later that I struggled like on a daily basis with. I stole this from my sister in junior high, which was over 10 years ago. And it was used then, but it has such great colors, especially like this like pink browns. This is the ones that I always get complimented on because I think they work really well, especially with the palette that I tend to wear a lot. There's some like nice pink and some like purple and like mauve-ish color, and then there's like a couple browns that I really like. And then this one has the gold and tends to be the brown that I also use. It's the one I use for my eyebrows. This is the Nudes Maybelle New York. I think this was also given to me as a gift. I don't buy makeup. I am such a frugal person, especially when it comes to makeup. So I'm just like, I keep it forever. And everyone's like, replace your makeup in 6 months. And I was like, oh no, I will replace mine every 15 years. The way that your brain is chemically changed and stuff like that because of anorexia might not go away. It doesn't mean that you don't recover in weight. And one of the things that is really important about anorexia is the fact that like often, you know, weight is the smallest bit of anorexia. Like I might have started not eating because I was concerned about my weight, but I was also mostly concerned about my family stuff and the things going on in my social sphere and the bullying and other things that were happening in my life. And anorexia is so much more about control than it is about anything. And now, even though I've gained a lot of self-confidence and I'm not really like looking in the mirror every day and being like, I hate my body, it still deals with the fact that when I'm anxious, when I'm not feeling in control, when I'm stressed, I don't want to eat because it's almost like this nice adrenaline boost of, hey, I did something today. I conquered eating, which is such a terrible, screwed up view. But it does feel like empowerment. It's really distorted empowerment, but it feels like empowerment. And it's very interesting to hear myself at 16, at 17, at 20 writing about this and being like, oh, Kier, like this is rough, but it's also really insightful into my brain. And the way that I tried and developed ways of talking to people about these issues that I still struggle almost with more, because the more that I know about it, the less gumption I have. And that's something that's interesting about being a teenager, which I think is really valuable. Like, there's so many ways where, especially this one essay that I'd written for school, it's called Let's Thin Out the Psych Ward, and it's a satirical essay in the way of like of A Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift. The idea that you give this kind of ludicrous idea, and in it you make fun of the idea that's going against you, which makes your points relevant because the ways that you're arguing against are actually very clearly the modest and important and like reasonable choices. And I did this with the way that we talk about eating disorders and how so many people don't take eating disorders, especially in 2014, as seriously as they should be. I thought of almost like going through this quite short essay, because it's high school, and kind of analyzing it and thinking about what I would change today and the way that we talk about mental health now versus in 2014. And I think it would be really interesting, but it's very outside of my channel. So if you would like that, that was my lawn thing of doing that, because there's the thing of like, I wrote so much on my blog from 2013 to about 2017. And that is kind of why I started my channel, and it's, you know, where I started and all of these things. But a lot of those, I don't stand by what they say. Like, there are parts of me that make me proud and elements that I was able to express myself. And even though like I, you know, stand in solidarity against, you know, mental health or like dealing with mental health and like against all of these things, the way that I worded them is so much more raw and also way less, I don't know, more honest in many aspects, but also less honest in some ways. Like, I wouldn't write in that way. I would be a little bit more sensitive. I would probably not use as many descriptions of what I was actually doing to my body with self-harm and with anorexia and stuff like that. So I started a new blog and kind of like not privated that because I wanted an archive of the things that I did, but I also felt like this was a false foundation to build things like writing and stuff like that. And that's why I've kind of stopped writing as much in the last few years. However, I do like these ones, and they're representative of 17-year-old me. They're not representative of, you know, 24-year-old me. So now I'm using this one to kind of go over, I never know when or how high to do it. Like, no one has ever taught me how to do makeup. I used to do my water lid all the time. I almost pulled it open and I realized that people who don't wear contacts all the time sometimes find it a little weird when you're just like glaring in people's eyes. Like, I need to plan a great Valentine's Day thing. This is the first time I'll be like seeing my friends within like a month and a half in person, which will be super great. And I love Valentine's Day. Something that like, also one of my rants that I think, like, I am sad that people who are single do not celebrate Valentine's Day, because it is just great. Like, I will not call it Valentine's. I will not call it anything. Like, celebration of love is one of my favorite things. Love is one of my favorite things. And I have been in very few romantic relationships on Valentine's Day, and yet I still love it. So I am having a few women in my life over. It's gonna be super great. We're gonna drink wine, we're gonna talk about stuff, and I'm really, really excited. And like, it's generational, so we're gonna have some older women who have been divorced and some younger ones. I'm really excited for it, and I need to plan that because it's Monday. Greg from Supposedly Fun does this brilliant thing where he revisits his kind of hauls from previous years and talks about that. I have no desire to like get rid of books off my shelves, especially in mass, because of the fact that I view it as library builders. I didn't grow up with a lot of books around me, and you know, I think my life would have been a little better if I had have been like reading or having options of something that wasn't Nancy Drew or Hardy Boys. Even if I don't like the book or I'm never gonna read it, probably people in my life, like there's always like 10 to 15 books on my shelves just being like, I'm literally in the ways of being like, hey person, you've had my book for 2.5 years. I would love if you would return it. So that is kind of my vibe toward it. So I don't need to get rid of them, but I think it would be really cool because I suck at doing like book hauls. It would be nice to talk about them and chat, and I love being able to talk about books that came into my life. I have not done consistent hauls anyway through, so I think that it might be hard to track down which books I got well. And the first kind of bullet journal I used, which I can't find, started in May of 2018. The one that I currently have is from May to 2020, and I will probably have it until the end of the year. And the one previously was from May of 2018 to April of 2020. So I'm missing all of 2017 and the beginning of 2018 in bullet journals, and I can't find the first one. So that's going to be fun. So I'm going to be very, very close to the screen on this because it's the only way you do eyeliner. Thankfully, one of the facts of wearing contacts for over, I'm gonna say half my life, but good like quarter or something, is my eyes just don't move. I never know how to pronounce their name, but they are wonderful. Author of Iron Widow, love their analysis of everything. They just did a video on like traditional Chinese opera, and we're talking about like how you just add more eyeliner, and I was like, yes, that is what I do with life. So this is what I do. Well, that is a lot of a lot, and also I don't think I'm going to fix it up on the mirror up there after. Also, yeah, I'm just doing it in my bathroom with my cloud thing of toilet paper because I was like, this is the most traditional place to do it, and then I'll have a mirror nearby. Gods of Jade and Shadow are the books that I have been reading, and I finished that. It was supposed to be my Latinx thing from January. I started on the plane, and it was very loud and distracting, and I didn't get everything, so I restarted it and read it, and then I just finished it, I think 2 nights ago, and it was quite good. I enjoyed it, especially on the second time, and I thought it was really good. I've also been reading We Are Not Done With All the Bright. That is not the title. We Burn All the Bright. We Ain't Burned All the Bright. I think that's the title. And it is by Jason Reynolds and his very old friend. They did their first published work together in like 2008 in college, which just makes me so sweet because sometimes I feel very old, even though I am not old. And I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I've been wanting to publish since I was like 11 years old, and look at me now. So it was nice to be like, hey, look at what they've done. Oh my goodness, so much. This is going to get all over my face. This is a mess. This is my chaotic life. His poem collection for everyone didn't perfectly work for me, so this one actually did a little bit more, and I'm really, really enjoying the artwork. I think that it's like where you leave the black characters, you just don't fill in the black like paper behind, and I'm forgetting the woman who does it, or it's man. I think they've done both because I'm thinking about the woman who does the portrait of the man who is going to fight in Vietnam, and it's like the unfinished soldier or something like that. So because he got his portrait kind of in uniform done, and she aligned it and started doing his face and stuff like that, and then he went to war and he never actually got it finished, but she like marked it unfinished because so many people who went to Vietnam never actually had their lives finished, and that's really brilliant. And then Kerry, is it Kerry Washington, or I'm thinking of someone else? Anyways, they did it where they do these kind of vibrant things of black life and stuff like that, especially like barbershops, different areas, and they use it by filming like their beautiful clothes and stuff like that, but they use black paper and they never fill in the people. So there's no like shadeism, there's nothing else. And I think that it's like kind of this reclaiming of the way that we look at black bodies, and especially in art and stuff like that. And I really, really love their art. I love the design, but I also like the meaning behind it. So that is one that I really like. I don't know how I got here. Where did I get the here from? Is Rouge Lavotte. Oh, I'm reading the French side. We live in Canada. Sephora metal. This looks like metal. I'm pretty sure it's what it's supposed to be, like the idea of like rock metal, not that. Actually, talking about that, I am currently reading. Oh, I was talking about the art. Yeah, and We Burn That Bright. It's really good at talking about COVID and their lives and stuff like that, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I am reading it currently on ebook, but I think it would probably be better as a physical book. But on metal, I've been watching Pam and Tommy Lee, mostly because I love Sebastian Stan and Lily James. Like, Lily James has been in some rough stuff, but she's also in so much, and I would love to do analysis of this and her portrayal in The Pursuit of Love, which was one of my favorite shows of 2021, and she filmed these back to back. And they both look at women who are interesting in the way they're perceived and stuff like that, but framed as so different. It is a little bit sexual for my love of lack of sexual things, and there's definitely parts where I was like, I'm so glad I'm asexual because this is really killing. This was supposed to be stimulating. I am like, sometimes people are like, how do you know you're asexual? And I'm like, I just watched these scenes and I was like so physically repulsed. I was like, no, I'm not sure if they were going for stimulating, but if they were going for stimulating, I was like, I am so just repulsed. Not by them. I'm like, they're beautiful people. Well, their clothes were on, but yeah, anyways, the discussion especially got me. I was like, no, I don't want to be here, but I feel like there's important plot stuff going on. So I might re-go back to it, but currently I'm just like, so much sex. I don't like this. So I am enjoying the fact of this. I really love the podcast You're Wrong About. This is one that I found through Margaret, the word nerd. Love her channel, love this recommendation, and I've been loving going through and talking about how women are portrayed and stuff like that, because that is something that has become a huge passion of myself. So it's really great, and I want to read it, watch it for the Pamela Anderson. I really enjoy watching Stan Lee and Lily James play this, and also a lot of the time because of their formations, I'm like, yeah, that is Sebastian Stan. So that is an interesting thing in there. And also on the complete off, right before watching this, I watched all of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which I don't know why I decided that this was a great time to watch this. It is actually better in some ways than I thought. Like, I've always thought, like, you know, it came out in 1967. If you're not familiar with the plot, it takes a family who is like these white liberals who have been like really passionate, and he's like owns a newspaper and has taken a stand against all civil rights, or for civil rights, against, you know, discrimination and stuff like that. And then their daughter brings home a black man and wants to marry them, and like looking at that. And it is very interesting. Part of it is like there's a higher picture of like way where like people just talk strange, but I especially really liked the way that the mother and daughter relationships between Catherine Houghton and Katharine Hepburn, which are actually aunt and niece, I thought they came off like really realistically and stuff like that. And I don't know, I enjoyed their humor a lot. I definitely understand the idea that he's like very much like the model black man and stuff like that. And I also feel like I would have much appreciated if they were a little closer in age. I think the actors are like 17 years apart, and he's like already been married and stuff like that, and she's very young. And I thought that a lot of the ways that the race talked about definitely doesn't age the perfect, but I do think that it, you know, it doesn't age perfectly, and would have been much better if it was not written by a completely white screenwriter and director and stuff like that writing about this. And I also really wish the speech wasn't by the father. Like, I feel like there could have been better people to write the speech. However, I did really like, especially the idea that her believing that race wasn't an issue. She starts off as almost this like naive character who seems like she is colorblind, that she has no relevance, but she, you know, she is aware of the frustration and she is aware of that, but she won't let it take ownership in the decisions she makes. And I also really like the way that she brings out the humor in Sidney Poitier's like plot. Like, I thought her and John actually, like, they made a really compelling couple, and I wish they'd spent more time together. I definitely have complicated feelings about it, because I definitely think it's not like a stand-up of like, let's talk about racial equality with it, but I also think that is a very, like, it is well done in many ways, and I really wish the centering wasn't on the white father. I kind of want to watch Get Out, because I've heard that there's some interesting parallels going on that, and that's been on my list, although horror in movie form is not my type. And then in the last minutes we have this Rimmel bronzing thing. I got it many years ago. I haven't used bronzing in a very long time. However, because my cheeks are a little bit more pale than they have been in past years, I've started using it again, kind of thing. And interestingly, in one of my very first videos, I was using this palette and I was calling it conjuring instead of contouring. And it's always made me laugh. Anyways, those are the fun moments we've had on this channel. And yeah, I don't really have a grand conclusion for this. These are many of the thoughts. If you would like more in-depth videos on the movies I've watched, on the shows I've watched, on my articles, which I talked very much, I would like to talk a little bit more about mental health. Obviously, I've had a lot of personal experience with it, but I'm also, you know, a mental health professional, familiar with these areas, and they're important to me. However, I don't know often how to incorporate them, because it sounds like such a pivot. But I did start this channel on wanting to talk about mental health, being able to want to express mine. So if kind of talking about articles and stuff like that, I don't know, I often don't like the depiction in fiction. It's really rough. Also, talking about Sweet Magnolias, they were just like, yes, let's have this like friend of the family come over and be his therapist. It's so freaking illegal. Like, I really want to just be like, how do you write therapists on TV? Because you suck. Anyways, this was not relevant. This was just a rambly thoughts. It does make me feel a lot better, and like I can write an essay now about strategic planning, because planning is definitely my thing. You can tell through my rambleness, and I am thankful for all of you who've come out and give me random thoughts about what's going on in your life and what's percolating in your brain, and I hope you have a great time.